Whatever you focus on grows. I had an interesting dream where I saw a Napa cabbage in a bucket full of water. It's my KVM school days. I'm surrounded by ladies from my extended family, my mommy ji, and I even hear my mother's presence, whether in her voice or the message that she had given me. I knew there was some stinky aspect to something in the bucket, and I didn't want to open the bucket. Yet I was curious what's inside it. Then Mami ji, my aunt, who was very good at reclaiming things from old things. She would not waste things easily. She was very efficient. She pointed out how some sort of fungus was forming, not uncommon in cabbages. So there are two choices at that time. Oh, is the entire cabbage rotten? Or can some of the cabbage be reclaimed? She just wanted to cut out that ring, that cylinder. She made a couple of cuts, and the top part was quite good. And actually, I touched it, it was crispy. It was not rotten, it was just fine. It was as good as fresh, you can say. And I woke up interpreting that dream. So, water, female energy, it has to do with heart, it has to do with emotions. Sometimes things that actually nourish us, the things could be anything. It could be a habit, it could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be really anything. And it can be emotionally draining, it can be taxing on the heart. So then there are two choices. Do you throw the entire thing away? Do you cut out the rotten portion? Do you keep the rest? So the first part is do not ignore the rotten portion. You cannot keep on ignoring the rotten portion. It's not the cabbage that is rotten entirely. It is a part of cabbage that is rotten. Because if you eat the rotten part of the cabbage, the fungus, you can get sick. It is not going to be nourishing. It's going to be sickening. Acknowledging and accepting that that part is rotten is important. And then making a decision that you have to cut it out of your life. That's where cutting the ties that bind come into picture, doing trauma therapy and saying no and all kinds of things. Two thoughts came while I was doing dream interpretation. I was like, I know when you cut ties, what happens is that the energy that is locked because of that pattern is released and returns to you, comes back to you, making you a more whole, more complete person. But in this case, it felt like, hey, this part of cabbage cutting out is permanently gone. That means, does it mean that aspect of you now is completely gone? You could take a root of a cabbage, and there are ways to grow that plant. The key word here is regeneration, that the plant can regenerate itself. The relationship can regenerate itself. The part of you that you lost as a result of that fungus can regenerate itself. As a matter of fact, not only regenerate, it can multiply, because the moment you grow a new twig, it grows into a plant of its own. It can give fruits. It becomes a fruit-bearing tree. I had seen a movie about a young couple in love in Italy in some winery. It is set up, I believe, in the early 1900s. And how the couple was so engaged in being lovey-dovey that the girl's parent was just, they felt it was just a little bit too much, because they were not focused on the job or work in the orchid. So there was a frost like conditions, and the parent said, we're going to lose the crop if we don't do something about it. And that had to do with fanning the grape wines, which is rows and rows of wines, with fire blowing torches and fanning it, so keeping the crop warm. In the process, the boy and the girl were horsing around, and the torch flame actually created a fire-like condition, and that fire expanded and it engulfed the entire orchid. And the boy and the girl were, especially the boy in this case, was feeling so rotten and guilty. That what have I done? I've destroyed this entire family farm, which has been going for generations. But he remembered a conversation from his future father-in-law, who said that even if you have one root from this plant that is saved, that is not burnt or destroyed, you can regenerate it, regrow it. It will require patience, and all of this can return. And that's what he did. He dedicated himself. He grew up. They grew up as a result of this incident. Incidentally, accidentally, they were responsible for it because they were acting irresponsibly. They planted that root of that grapevine, and over a period of time, the twig grew into a vine, and they kept on growing that farm, and they nurtured the farm responsibly, carefully, not doing silly, stupid, childish things. And actually, they grew the farm much bigger in size than the original, 10 times bigger. They manifested something much bigger. And then they started exporting the vines to various countries. The key here is when you recognize the rotten parts of yourself and you make a decision to cut it off and to never redo it, and you save the good parts of it, and you can regenerate the good parts of it, you can regrow it, it is much better than the original, number one. Number two, here is the caution. The ego, the personality, the persona, we have this habit of clarifying ourselves. Oh no, I was not wrong. Oh, I didn't make a mistake. And here are the reasons. Well, what about the other person's participation and so forth? He said, she said, I said, we said, this was it, this was not it. And these are endless debates. We have seen that happen in any relationship. Or when you indulge in the rotten parts of it, the rotten parts grow. The rotten parts regenerate. When you're focused only on the good parts grow. The good parts regenerate. I'm going to repeat on this part. Do not be tempted to plow through, to dissect, to play with, to try to clean the rotten parts, and maybe something can be retrieved from the rotten part. The rotten part is rotten. What is burnt is burnt. What is gone is gone. Do not put your hand into it, because then you tap into the same rotten energy. You give power. You give good power of yours. You reinvest good parts of yourself into the rotten that has to be thrown away. Instead, focus on what is good and nurture that. Whatever you focus on in your life grows. You focus on rotten parts, the rotten parts grow. You focus on good parts, the good parts grow. If you focus on what you do not want to manifest, then what you do not want to manifest will manifest. If you focus on what you want to manifest, then what you want to manifest will manifest. Whatever you focus on will manifest sooner or later. This is the land of karma. Things only grow here. What are you planting? What are you focused on? What are you tilling and nurturing and planting and growing in the land of your heart? What thoughts and feelings are you entertaining? If you entertain good thoughts and feelings and words and actions, then they manifest. When you entertain bad thoughts, bad feelings, bad words, they grow. Manifestation takes place only with the self-alignment. You cannot fool the universe. Manifestation is automatic. The more focused you are to your target, more quickly you manifest. Whatever you focus on grows. Whether you're focused on what you want to manifest or you focused on what you don't want to manifest, because it regenerates. So be careful about what you focus on. Enough of this, what happened in the past, which was negative. Whether you know why you feel this way or you don't know why you feel that way, whether it was justified or not justified, whether you were right, whether you were wrong, do not go back to the filth, rotten excretion. Do not even bring the name of the condition, the situation, or the incident, because then you regenerate that energy. By focusing on the rotten, we only delay what is obvious. We make our journey, our experience rotten instead of loving. Instead of having what we want, we end up having things that we don't want. And one thing will lead to the other. It seemed very entertaining, but you go back to that old energy, reliving those wounds. So don't be that wounded warrior. We wear our traumas as badges on our bodies. Let's not talk about traumas and relive, regenerate, reignite those emotions in our heart, those traumatic events, and live in the past. You can explain all you want. Oh no, those were the enemy lines and I was duty bound and how heroic I was. I threw myself into it. We want to manifest what we want to manifest in our life because we deserve it. We deserve to be happy. Let's talk happy. Let's think happy. Let's feel happy. Let's be happy. Let's acquire, be, do what makes us happy. I love me.